Like all the time. Whatever you want. Sure, yeah. But a lot of keyboards just don't work very well. If you have the trackboard, but even some things just are like a flying key or something. Even though it is like sure, yeah. And I'll frequently as well. A lot of times, it's one of the sessions I'm just at work. I just load up in with this and I'm just. Sure. Yeah. My space. I think my fire button is usually. These are my buttons.
You know, I've been meaning to talk to you, but it seems like
a maximized window is probably just on.
I don't go to sessions I basically don't see anymore. So.
Do you know like Mess and MAME well enough to know like what the command line option would be for a full screen?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Okay.
Jason back home?
Well, it's okay.
I mean, the best I can do is looking up the FreeBSD man page. They tend to be the best.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to look at at the moment. That doesn't matter.
So where are you from?
If we're missing the bottom.
Okay. Okay.
That's my first answer.
Okay. It's also mine.
Oh, okay. Where are you coming from?
I'm from the southern part of India.
Okay.
Talk about
You drove?
drive.
Yeah,
Well,
I came with Ian Johnson and Jeff Weiss.
if I thought about it, because we had plenty of time, I thought I just called you. Yes. Plug your Mac in, that works.
I'm Oliver.
This is why you should use a Mac, not Windows.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. It's I've been getting like 4 hours of sleep every night. Last night and a lot differently, but I decided to buy an accelerator at 4 a.m. So that happened.
Nice. Accelerator for 2GS?
Got a my brain is not for you this morning. My brain wants to say a zip, but I know it's not a zip. I just want to buy a zip. It's a transword.
Oh, yeah.
It's clocked at 8 megahertz. I also bought some RAM, so the last bit of my kit that I need to start doing some work on some of Jeff's stuff is storage. I'm going to hold someone hostage. Well, yes, I'm looking for either a Focus so that I can use a CF adapter with it.
Oh, right.
CF
In the documentation upstairs, so what Eric,
That's the slightest difference.
and he wrote a full card of hardware and software. It was part of the information also on Tuesday. There was documentation about Focus.
I'm sorry, 11.
Drive, but I
We still got 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, there's still a few people in here. He's got it up and running.
James Littleton is going to sell that tonight.
Yeah, you guys get till 11.
But it only actually allow me to do every other reset.
Yeah,
And when it didn't get all the way through loading. So what's on the screen? What's wrong with it?
okay. Did you come with your own GS? Or did you...
Yes.
Okay. Did you get a chance to send a picture of the serial numbers to Deluxe in France? Okay. Okay, Tyler, where are you?
I am in one.
Sure, yeah. I'll stop by.
If anybody's interested, Mike and Paul are going to continue with some more Apple3 stuff.
We got that other hard drive image working, so for those of you who are still here and interested,
Let's go.
So So this is also proof that it works on the Mac as well.
Yes, this is running on the Mac, and that's why it works. So normally, when you choose the BAWS disk, this is what you'll end up seeing, and you can see the different stuff that Egan has set up and installed and set up. You can see why. Why don't you launch Business Basic, Paul? And boom, just like that, you're in the Business Basic.
Oops. Yeah, great. Anyway.
Simple stuff, and then I think if you just type yep, and then you put right back to the program launcher. You got again the Pascal, the Fortran, the COBOL. What's nice is you got VisiCalc, Advanced VisiCalc, basically all of the available Apple3, the big Apple3 packages that were released at the time are on this hard drive image. Now again, using that CHD man program, you can go in there and rip these things out, put them in that way. Or you can, if you really want to get kind of crazy, you can try and load the stuff through this. That gets a little bit more difficult because you have to use the, do you want to, can you pull up the mess menu, show like loading a floppy that way? So these are the one internal right here, and then the 3 external in your hard drive. And you would just load your floppy images into NES this way.
That's good. I don't know. Do I have something embarrassing here?
Just pick up like the backup tree.
I don't know what that is. Okay.
And you can, what's nice is there's with NES you can set it to read write or read only if you don't want to, if you're worried you're going to mess something up, figuratively speaking. And return to the previous menu.
Do we want to boot this in?
No, you shouldn't need to. It's in drive 2. So go ahead.
Oh, I think I put it in drive 1. Hold on. Okay.
Well, you can, that's fine too, because go back to. Let's get out and get out.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Here, let's do this one. So, what are we doing? Backup 3.
Yeah, backup 3. Return to previous. Return to system. And if you go to the next page, you use the arrow keys to move around in here, and then this has multiple windows, so you can, using tab, you can move through the different windows of file configurations.
Sorry. I'm having key issues here. Let's see.
We talked about the key issues. Here we go. Can you tab?
Unfortunately, I've got this master volume slider stuck up. Okay, go away. Okay, hold on. Oh, good. Okay. Okay, this is where you want it to be?
So let's tab to the next screen. And load the system utilities. Do the file handling. And list files. D2.
I think D2's empty right now.
So is it? Okay, just D1. And last one, when you want to output your file listing, put that in the console. And there's the disk image that we just loaded. If you back up some, one of the things that you'll get to see a lot if you use an Apple3 is the system configuration program. I think Tony talked sort of about that yesterday. It's very similar if you worked in a Unix environment and you have to recompile the kernel because you added a driver and made a change. This is pretty sort of a rudimentary version of that. So what you do is you would read a driver file, and your default driver file on every floppy is called sauce.driver. So go ahead and enter here. It'll read the driver in.
It emulates the weight perfectly.
Yeah, this is real time, real speed. And so these are all of the drivers that are currently on the floppy that's loaded. The ones with the pluses next to them are inactive. They're there for you to use, but you set them to inactive and they don't load into memory and chew up system resources sitting there doing nothing. But it's convenient maybe to have them there. The difficulty is if you've got a lot of devices and you start loading up your floppies with drivers, your floppy will fill up really quickly and you'll end up in the situation where you have to set up a dual boot system where you boot one disk to load the drivers and then switch to the other floppy. So it's best to try and keep the sets of drivers that you need to a bare minimum. So if you pull up, say, let's pull up the profile right there. Edit driver parameters, you pick your profile, and you can set the basic stuff on your, in this case, this is the CFFA card. You see it's calling it a profile, but it's clearly the CFFA driver that was written recently. That's because the CFFA card presents itself as a profile drive to the Apple3. If you back out of here, if you make any changes, once that's done, back out. And once that's done, you'll have to generate a new system. If you try to leave without doing the generate, it'll say, no system generator, you sure you want to get out of here? Basically, this writes out your new kernel file. Once that's done, then you can boot it, and it'll see whatever changes you've made to your drivers. It's something that once you've done it 12.5 times, it's not that difficult. It's, the problem that Apple3 had was that they had this weird system of hardware drivers, and business people are just wanting to use Draw on 3 or VisiCalc. That was one of the problems with at the time, this was all new. Nobody understood subdirectories and driver files, and it was very confusing and hard to use, and so it got a reputation. That's kind of where the SOS thing came from. It was perceived as very difficult to learn. So the other thing about SOS is that there really isn't a command prompt. When you boot to DOS 3.3, you can get a DOS command prompt. You can do AppleSoft stuff in there, but the DOS commands are available at a command prompt. You don't have that really with SOS. It's all menu driven, and that can be helpful, but it can also be very limiting if you're trying to do something that the menus don't want you to do.
What's the largest size volume?
16 megabytes. Yeah, not 32. The ProDOS 32 limitation or expansion, I guess, came later. This is sort of proto-DOS. A lot of the operating system work that came later for most of the Apple machines, including at least Macintosh and our beloved Apple IIs, came from SOS. And in fact, most versions of ProDOS through, I forget, it's well down the development, the release tree had the first block 0, I think, was SOS, was a SOS boot block.
Block 0 was ProDOS,
okay.
Block 1. They had, if you tried doing it in Apple II, you changed block 1 and loaded that in Apple SOS, but the SOS book.
Right. So these are. It's nice that this is compatible enough with ProDOS that you can't run Apple III programs on your Apple II, but you can at least load a disk up, and I think with the ProDOS System Utilities disk, you can read SOS disks and access your data and things like that. And I think.
So there's no way to get a boot disk larger than 143K.
That's correct. Right, and that's kind of one of the things the limitations that you run into, especially if you're playing around with drivers and devices and things. You got to be careful because it
Can
will.
you have multiple boot disks floating around?
Sure, yeah. The trick is to, once you have a set of drivers for the hardware that you want to use, copy that sauce.driver file to all of them. Because if you don't have the latest drivers on, you make a change on one disk, boot an older disk, that older disk isn't going to see the new hardware because it doesn't have the new drivers changes that you made.
Right, but I mean, let's say you had a system where you were filling it up, like let's say you never used the printer in this particular system, you went up to 141.5K, and then you had another complete boot disk that had the printer on it for something else that you wanted to do. You could just, switch the boot disk rather than have to read the printer.
Yeah, as long as you have a floppy that has the printer driver
Right.
and it's configured, then yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Multiple configurations.
Yes.
Just looking to see if there's anything interesting here. There are a lot of things that do have this two-stage, you put in the one disk and then that's for the second one.
Well, that's one of the reasons why when you got the profile, you had the Quark.
Yeah, core catalyst.
That was a lifesaver.
Core Catalyst is a program that was developed, okay, so Apple wanted this to be a business machine. We made business packages, and business software is expensive, $400 to $500. A business can afford that, somebody at home maybe not so much, but it's expensive software, and they wanted to protect it, but users wanted to be able to put this stuff on their profile drives. So French came up with a system where you would put your original floppy in there, it would load the program onto your hard drive and then disable the program on the floppy, so that you couldn't then just take it over to your friend's house and load it on his hard drive and things like that. It's a very weird kind of copy protection system, and Quark unfortunately made sort of, as far as we're concerned for preservation, made a kind of fatal decision in that they also tied the copy of Quark to a particular hard drive. So once you used Quark on a profile, you couldn't use it on another copy of that. And today we can't find any virgin copies of Quark out there anymore. They're all tied to various profile drives. So if you have a copy of the profile, or if you have the Quark software and no profile, it's useless. They later, I'm sorry?
I put it in the, where did I put it? I put it in the rolling demo.
Okay.
Which does have, which does ask you to put in a second disk. That was the reason.
Well, Quark would also load in other people's programs.
Yeah, oh, that's what I mean, not just Quark's programs. They had, Quark worked with all of the producers of the software, of this expensive software, to kind of, how do we transfer your program around your copy protection? That's how they were able to do that.
So I mean, all you just had to keep that Quark boot disk in the floppy and it went right to the profile.
Exactly.
That was all free.
Yeah. And later, Bob Consorti, actually, the program that you've been looking at right there is sort of one called Selector 3. And it does a similar